This video is brought to you by Miniature Market. Thousands of board games, discounted prices, miniaturemarket.com.
Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today we're going to be exploring the land of Nebula. We're going to be going through the fog, trying to find our way through the petrified forest, and then finally settling among ruins and then creating a building site there in which we will build our buildings. Today we're talking about Via Nebula. This is for 2 to 4 players. It's a 60-minute Euro-style strategy game. It's from Space Cowboys, the same publishers that brought you Splendor and Time Stories and many more. And it's designed by Martin Wallace. Let me show you how it's played. I'll see you on the other side. Now I don't often show inserts, but this one is quite amazing. All of the resources fit here, and the coolest thing is if you look at this, they're all shaped like the resource. This is a pig, and it's shaped like a pig. This one is essentially, a tree, and it's shaped like a tree. They're all shaped like the way they are, which is really cool. It has a piece for all of these, and then every player pieces stack exactly perfectly. Excellent insert. Each player gets to pick their color and board. Essentially this player is white, and they're double-sided. This is for 3 or 4 players. And the artwork and the color is different depending on which board that you choose. They're all very cute, and I love the artwork style here. Once you have your board, everyone will get 3 of their building sites, 5 buildings, 2 of their people to place out, and you'll stack these meadow tiles into 4 different things depending on the amount of players. You'll also get 2 secret goals. Now the board is double-sided. This is the beginner side. There's another side that looks similar but is a more challenging quest. And here we have randomly placed out a bunch of tokens of the different resources, and one of those random ones actually spewed a certain amount of resources of the different ones, of the stone, the clay, the animals, the wood, and the wheat. And so the setup's going to be different for each game. Now on your turn, you get to spend 2 actions. All of them only cost 1 of these actions. One of them costs both actions per turn. So let's go through these different actions. After you've done 2, it would be the next player's turn clockwise, but I'm going to go through all the actions now. One of the actions is you can place one of your craftsmen. When you take your craftsman, you can place it on any one of the exploitation tokens out there, and when you do that, you will add that many resources. It says 3. If you're playing with less players, you'll put less, but in this case, we will put 3 resources out, and then this exploitation token will go face down next to my board. Now, this came from my board, and you can only place them if you have them available on your board. Another action you can do is place a building site. A building site looks like this, and you're basically going to place it on any one of the open ruins spots on the board, and you can place it. It doesn't matter which side you place it on. If somebody else places one here, this is still considered 1 hex that you both sort of have a building site on. Now the next action you could possibly take is explore a fog tile. This is you take a meadow tile from the leftmost stack and you place it on a fog tile with certain limitations that I'll show you. What happens is as you place things and you uncover things, you'll be getting points for these at the end of the game, and all of these are worth 2 points if you get through them. Now when I explore the fog and place the metal, it can be placed next to, adjacent to anything that has my color. One of my guys, one of my building sites, or one of my buildings. Or it can be placed adjacent to another meadow tile that is blank and has no resources and no exploitation tokens. Now again, you're only getting 2 actions, but I'm kind of showing you all of them. The only one that's worth 2 actions, meaning it's your whole turn, is exploring a petrified forest. Again, you would grab the leftmost meadow. And again, here's the petrified different forest types. There's one here. I'm going to put it here because it's adjacent to my building site, and that would have taken both my actions. You can transport a resource to your building site. Now to do this, I need to have uninterrupted and blank meadow spaces between the building site that I'm bringing it to and where the resource space is. And the resources can come from a place where I have one of my guys. It could be blank, or there actually can even be another person's guy there. I could basically have taken this and gone here, or in this case I could have taken the stone and gone here because they're both going through blank spots. And finally, I could try to build a building on my building site. So let's say over the course of some turns, I have 1 of each of the 4 resources. These show you different things that you need in order to get those and build those. And let's say I had 1 of each of the 4, so I'm going to build that one there. So with a closer look, we see that my merchant is building this building, and those are the 4 resources we need. So in this case, I would take the 4 resources off, I would take my building site off, and I would place my building on that spot. The resources go back to the general supply, and my building site goes back to my player board. So this would go back on my board, but let's say instead of having exact, maybe I had one too many stone. Well, if that's the case, one of these gets stored here. At the end of the game, for every extra thing you have is going to be -1 point. Now I also get to fulfill this special ability. This says score 1 point for each exploitation you have at the end of the game. So at the end of the game, I'll have 1 for each of these things that I explored and put next to my board. And then this would refill. Now don't forget that you were given 2 secret goals at the beginning of the game that you could build, and they do certain things. This one will give you 3 points, and draw the top card of the draw pile and add it to your hand. Or let's say, for example, hey, quiet town, no power, but it would give you 4 points. This continues until one player has played his 5th and final building, and then they take the end of game card. This is going to give them 2 extra points. Everybody else will get 1 final turn. And then you count up all your points. All the cards that you've built will give you points. Sometimes they'll depend on some other things. You'll also get points for each of the tokens that you have, and you'll get points for each of the piles that you completed, and you'll subtract the extra storage. Whoever's the most is the winner. If it is a tie, the tie player with the least amount of tokens here wins. If you're still tied, you share the victory. Now, pretty much anytime Space Cowboys puts anything out, I'm going to be interested in it because they just have a track record of creating amazing games, and especially creating games that I don't think I would normally like, but then in the end I end up really enjoying. This is no different. This is in that category. When I first looked at it, I looked at the mechanisms. I even briskly read through the rulebook beforehand when it first got announced. It was one that I was like, this doesn't look like it's my cup of tea. But again, most of Space Cowboys games that I've tried, they change my opinion on things, and I love it when they do that. This game, first of all, production. Let's talk about the production. I showed you the insert. Amazing job with that insert. Even the cutouts of where the pieces go are shaped like the resources. Really good job on that. The artwork's awesome. The colors are awesome. The production values are awesome. All those wooden bits, the custom, the pigs and the hay and the clay and all that stuff. Cool custom wooden bits. I also really like that each player has their own buildings that are completely different, not just in color, but in stature and the way they look. So sometimes in this game, you might even pick your player because of what the buildings look like as opposed to the color. So production values, as usual, Space Cowboys knocks it out of the park. Now the gameplay itself is intriguing and interesting to me in a multitude of ways. I typically like light to medium games, and I like them to be 60 minutes or less, and this does both of those things. It is 60 minutes or less. With 2, it's even probably 45 minutes. But it's really interesting because there's not that many actions you can do on your turn. When I see Martin Wallace's name on the front of the box, a person like me who likes lighter medium games gets a little intimidated because like, oh man, this is going to be some complex game that I'm not going to be able to figure out. This is probably one of his more lighter games in this regard, but I liked it quite a bit. The mechanisms are interesting because, again, you only have 6 choices, but within those choices, there's a lot to think about. I mean, you're either placing, your turns are usually pretty quick because you're watching what other people are doing, you're thinking about what you're going for, you're looking for the buildings, and you're placing a guy and getting resources there. You're placing one of those metal tiles trying to connect your network. You're taking resources from other places and putting them on your building site, or you're fulfilling cards. I mean, it's very simple mechanically, but they've packed a lot of depth into some simple actions. Because even though the decisions are easy from an action selection standpoint, what to do and when to do it is a different ball game because it actually has a lot of depth there. This game has the main thing is, hey, you're building stuff, but other people are going to use it. And they're going to use the networks that you helped build. They're going to take the resources that you went and exploited first. And it's interesting because sometimes you get angry when somebody steals some of your exploitation resources. Like, oh man, he stole the clay over from here. He got to go to his thing. Man, I really needed that. But sometimes you want them to take it from him because maybe you've got your building set up and you've gotten all the stuff from the places that you went to. Maybe you take one from somebody else and you've finished your card and you have some extra resources that are sitting there. Those are going to be, extra at the end of the game if you don't get rid of those resources off your exploitation spots. And so you're either hoping that either you take it later and use it for something else, or you're hoping that somebody else does. And that's a pretty interesting thing where sometimes you don't want people to take things from you, and other times you kind of want them to. Also, there's some things of like, okay, you're planning your turns and you're thinking about certain things to go for on which buildings you want. and you've got one or two things maybe going at once, and you're thinking, you know what, I really need to go over there and get those pigs to finish this card, but no one else is really close to getting it, and I think somebody else is going to end up putting that medal there for me, or maybe connecting it in a different way. I'll let them spend their action and use their actions to do it. So this game actually has a lot of interesting choices as to the timing of it. Sometimes you need to be patient and wait and say, you know what? I'm going after that card. I can wait a little bit. Let me wait and let other people do this. I'll go do this over here. And maybe when you do that, you're helping somebody else. So it's really interesting how every decision you make impacts somebody else, and every decision other people make, they impact you. So overall, I liked it. I think it was interesting. It was simple. I think most Euro-style gamers would probably call this the light to light medium game. It's definitely lighter than most Martin Wallace's, but I enjoyed it. The game has that double side where that second side has, I'm not sure if I showed on the video, it has just a lot more petrified forests, a lot of other things going on. I do like how the game scales with the 2 players. You've got the total hexes that take up the whole spot, but with 3 and 4 players, which I think is the way the game was designed, you have those half spots, and you both can be doing that, be on the same spot, and then there's a lot more interaction of stuff going around and like that with more than 2 players. But I enjoyed it. I don't think it's one that completely swept me off my feet. It's not one that I'm entirely in love with, but if you're looking for a 60-minute quick Euro game that's simple to teach and easy mechanically, but yet has a lot of depth there and a lot of player interaction, this is one you're going to want to check out, and that's Via Nebula.
This video was sponsored by Miniature Market's Review Corner. The Review Corner features podcasts, video, and written game reviews by gamers for gamers. Miniature Market, the online gaming superstore. Thousands of board games, discounted prices. Check them out at miniaturemarket.com. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for backing me on Kickstarter and making this season become a reality. I'd like to especially thank those here that have backed me at the credit level. Now, these video reviews are also available by audio on our podcast. It's the intros and the final thoughts on GameBoyGeek.com. Click podcast.